Hey guys, I hope we are both audible and visible. If you could please put in the chat section. Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to another power-packed YouTube live session presented by Scoreleap. For those of you who don't know, Scoreleap is an edtech company that trains students for standardized tests like GMAT, GRE, and SAT. Not just that, they also help you with the entire admission process further ahead. I am Ananya Thakur, your host for the day. Duke Fuqua School of Business is known for its general management program and a very strong alumni network. Today we have Ayush Mohanty with us, who will help us understand what it takes to earn an admit and scholarship from this top school and what kind of opportunities Duke has to offer. Ayush is a Master's of Management and MBA graduate from Duke with a concentration in strategy and marketing from Duke Fuqua School of Business. He has successfully worked in cross-cultural environment and has a diversified experience in technology startups, non-profits, consultancies, and financial services. At Fuqua, Ayush has worked as an administrative interviewer and ambassador. He was also a part of school's initiative on impact investing and a member of Duke Fuqua interdisciplinary social innovators as well. He is a curious individual who loves to learn through reading and interacting with individuals to gain new perspectives. So, hey Ayush, how are you?
Thank you so much for that introduction. Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited to answer all your questions here.
That's great. Thank you for joining us today. Well, before we get started, I'd like to announce that the last 15 minutes are for the audience Q&A. So audience, feel free to drop in all your queries in the chat section and we'll address them based on the time which we'll have. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe our YouTube channel for more such events and session in the future. So are you ready, Ayush?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's begin. My first question to you is probably a very common question that is usually asked to you. Can you please share your experience at Duke as a Masters of Management Studies student and your experience at Duke as an MBA student?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, it's a very common question. And strangely, I've always struggled to answer this question because it's very hard to sort of describe the experience that we as Fuqua students have had in just words. But if I had to sort of summarize my experience when I look back at the last 2 years at Fuqua, I'd say that it has been an incredible learning experience. And when I say incredible learning experience, I don't just mean the learning that we had in classrooms, but more so the learning that I had outside the classrooms, where I got to meet a lot of incredible individuals from all across the world with diverse experiences, who I had the opportunity to interact with and learn from their unique experiences. I think what Fuqua provided me was a platform where I could constantly challenge myself and get out of my comfort zone. And rightly so that I definitely failed a lot of times when I tried new things during the last 2 years. But I think what the main difference was that how everyone at the school was extremely supportive, right from your peer group to your professors to everyone, all the staff members at Fuqua as well. There's a saying at Fuqua which is known as Team Fuqua, and it's not just something that they say, but they actually live by it as well. So you'd find everyone at the school, everyone just supporting you throughout your journey and helping you achieve your goals during your graduate program.
Oh, well, that's great, isn't it? Getting a mix of everything and plus the diversity you're getting an opportunity to study in. Okay, so can you walk us through the core curriculum at Duke for the MMS program and the MBA program?
Sure. I think I'll start off with the MMS program and then I'll get on to the MBA program. Sure. So the MMS program is 1 year long program where everyone needs to take 15 mandatory courses, adding up to about 43 credits. And these courses are spread across 5 different terms, each term being about 6 weeks long. And for students who are opting out for the STEM designation, and I think that's something of consideration for every international student, they need to take up 3 additional courses, adding up to 18 total courses over the span of a year. So this is how the MMS course is structured. You'll be learning a wide range of topics, ranging from finance, strategy, economics, decision models to everything that a business student needs to learn. And all these courses are case-led instead of being theoretical in nature. So this is something about the MMS course. Now coming to the MBA course, for students who are going up for the 2-year MBA program, their first year pretty much remains the same as that of the MMS program, where they need to take up mandatory courses in order to graduate towards the second year. But in the second year, and also this is true for the 1-year MBA program that I did, this is where things change, right? Here you get the opportunity to design your course the way you want to. You can design the curriculum the way you want to. You can take up as many courses you want in a particular term. It's all up to you. For instance, if you feel that a particular term is going to be recruitment heavy, you could take up easier courses in that term. You could take up lesser courses than in that term, and probably compensate for it in the subsequent terms, right? So this is how the second year of MBA is sort of structured. You get to choose from a wide range of specializations. It could be finance, strategy, marketing, and there are also different certificates that you could potentially apply for.
Well, both of the curriculums were extensive and they did sound challenging as well. But I really like the second year of the MBA program, how you can customize it based on your choices. Well, that's nice. So, Ayush, what kind of profile do you think students should build for the MMS program at Duke? Could you shed some light on that?
Sure. I think I'll just talk in general about the kind of profile that students should be looking to build for Fuqua, because the qualities that the school is looking for in students, potential students, remain the same across all of the programs. It's just that different programs are targeted towards different age group of individuals. Let's say like the MMS programs is for people just starting out their careers, and the MBA is for people who have a little more experience. So some of the things that students should look at is, of course, the main things, of course, remain the same across all the schools. Let's say, having a strong GMAT score, having good work experience, having diverse set of extracurricular activities. But I think what students need to look at when they're applying to Duke is also the qualities that Duke really prefers. One of them being clarity of thought. So Duke really sees whether or not, how clear are you in terms of why you want to join a particular program, why you want to apply to Fuqua, and what your post-career goals are. So having that clarity in thought is extremely important. Second, I think, like I mentioned during my first answer about Team Fuqua, I think Fuqua really emphasizes a lot on teamwork. You'd see a lot of your projects being team-driven as opposed to individual or solo-driven. And Fuqua is also looking for the same things in potential candidates as well. So emphasizing on team experiences, team leadership becomes extremely important as an MMS candidate or as an MBA candidate as well.
Okay, and furthermore, what does Duke look for the MBA candidates profile? Like how is it different from the MMS ones?
Oh, I think as opposed to the MMS program where people have lesser work experiences, here for an MBA candidate, your work experience becomes a really important aspect of your profile. So it's very important to have that clarity of thought in your work experience as well, as to why you chose a particular company, why you chose that particular role, and why do you want an MBA now? You'd see a lot of people doing really well in their careers before joining an MBA program. And so it becomes extremely important to answer this question as to why do you want to do an MBA now? If you want to change industry, like why do you want to change that industry? Where did that thought process come from? So that clarity of thought becomes extremely important. And also, what were your achievements during your work experience, right? It's not about just talking about the things that you did, but it's more about what were the things that you achieved. Let's say the teams that you led, or quantifying your achievements. Let's say if you're responsible for revenue growth at an organization, like how much revenue growth did you drive? Quantifying those experiences becomes very important.
Okay, well, that was informative, and basically the idea which I got was like how you need to pay more attention towards your clarity of thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay, so how was your peer group in the MBA and the MMS program, and like how would you define a particular day at Duke?
So the peer groups, I think I could divide them into two categories. One is the larger peer group, which is your entire batch. And then there's just a smaller peer group that you are a part of during both the MMS program and the MBA program, which is basically a team of individuals that you probably work with for all your assignments, all your projects over the span of 1 year. So these team of individuals are basically a team of 4 to 5 individuals that Fuqua very strategically forms, where each and every individual you'd find is from a different background. And when I say different background, I don't just mean a different nationality, but also a different undergrad major or a different work industry as well. So for instance, my first group during the MMS program was 5 individuals from 5 different countries, and each and every one of us had taken a different undergrad major. And Duke really does this because they really want you to work with diverse individuals, and that is something that they're really hoping for you to really learn and imbibe during your work experience after graduation as well. So essentially, if I have to talk about the MMS program, you're part of this group of 5 individuals for first 3 terms before it gets reshuffled, and you're part of a new group for the last 2 terms. And in the MBA program, you're part of this one group for the entire 1 year. And then in the second year, it again gets reshuffled. And this group of individuals essentially become your family at Duke, where they sort of work with you for all your assignments, all your projects, but more so they are your support people who you go to when things become overwhelming during a time at Duke, where you could reach out to them for support, for help in recruitments, for help, just general help in anything that you're going through during your time at MBA. So I think this is something that is very unique to Duke, and it's very interesting to meet these individuals that you interact with at your time at Fuqua.
Oh, well, that's very, very interesting on how you can actually have a family there who can like support you. Okay, so can you walk us through the job opportunities that opens to the MMS students and the MBA students post-graduation, because that is something which students really look at.
Yeah, of course. So I think the main difference between opportunities for MMS and MBA is the roles that they get. For instance, the MMS students tend to get entry-level roles, or maybe like a senior analyst or senior associate roles, given the fact that they do not have work experience before joining the program, or having like less number of years of experience before joining the program, as opposed to MBA graduates, where they tend to join mid-level management roles because the average profile, if you see, they have about 4 to 5 years of experience. Coming into specific industries and job roles, I think Fuqua being a consulting and technology-driven school, you'd find a lot of the huge percentage of people going into consulting or technology firms. Let's say for Fuqua MBA program, I think last year, more than 50 people just went to the MBB firms. And then other people joining other top consulting firms, right? So you'd see a lot of majority of people joining consulting or technology giants, let's say like Amazon or Facebook or Google. Again, the difference, one difference that I'd like to point out in the job search would be the MBA students tend to get a lot of time in terms of looking for a job, given if they're coming in for a 2-year MBA program, they have 2 years to sort of explore and look for a job, as opposed to the MMS students, where they have just about 10 to 11 months to find themselves a job, which maybe can become a little challenging, which is why an advice for MMS students would be to start off early. And as opposed to recruitment, how it happens in India, it's a little different in the US, where you'll have to network in order to get your jobs as well. For the MMS program, especially, not a lot of companies come on campus. So a lot of the hiring is off-campus driven, where individuals need to network with companies, with alumni in order to get a job in their dream industry or their dream. For the MBA students, there are enough companies coming on campus for hiring. But again, even if these companies are coming on campus, you still need to network. Maybe with the recruiters that are coming on campus, or maybe you have a dream company in mind that is not coming on campus that particular year. You may need to network outside, or outside of your campus with alumni in order to get your job.
Okay, well, this is really an important aspect which students look at. So, like, what prompted you to pursue MMS first and then MBA right after your MMS program? So, what was the thing?
Uh, so for me, honestly, MBA was not a part of the plan. I think for me, it was more about getting into a strong graduate program that fits into what I wanted to do. And back in 2018, I was sort of looking at different graduate programs in the US, looking for generalized master programs and also specialized master programs, let's say an MSc in finance or MSc in data analytics or something of that sort. But I was not extremely clear on what I wanted to do. And I thought maybe a generalized master programs would be a better fit for me, and which is why I went on for the MMS program. And things and my plans sort of changed when the pandemic hit, because when the pandemic hit, everyone was sort of like very confused on what would be the next right step for them and what they would want to do. And I was also in the same dilemma, and I sort of decided on maybe being in school during a pandemic hit year would be better off. I would be better off than being out there and looking for a job, right? So I wasn't sure if I'll get into the MBA program, because you need to go through the entire application process again, where you need to write your essays again, you need to come up with a letter of recommendation, you need to give an interview again. But I thought I might just give it a shot and might just try it. And yeah, so I was fortunate enough to get in, and lucky enough to be in school during a pandemic year, where I got a little more of time to sort of like explore more opportunities and get the kind of role that I was sort of looking at.
That's really great. So, jumping to my next question, as you mentioned, you had received a merit scholarship of $20,000 for your MBA and a $5,000 scholarship for your MMS program, right? So, what factors do you feel that the students should focus on to get scholarships?
So for scholarship, I think there are two different kind of scholarships. One, like I mentioned, is the merit-based scholarship, and there are also specific scholarships that are given to specific students based on their experiences. So I'll first talk about the merit-based scholarships, right? So for merit-based scholarships, it's essentially your profile, where your profile is evaluated holistically, and the way of getting a merit-based scholarship is to make sure that your profile stands out from the rest of the applicants. You could have an academic achievements to sort of highlight in order to get a merit-based scholarship, or it could be, great work experience, or maybe a very different kind of work experience that you have, that which basically sets you out from other applicants in order to get this merit-based scholarship. And now these merit-based scholarships are also very different in the kind of amounts that you receive. For instance, there's a whole range of scholarships that are given from all the way from 10% to all the way to 100%, and that's all based on when they evaluate your profile and see how well you stand out from the rest of the applicants. So that is the merit-based scholarship. Now there are specific other scholarships that you could perhaps apply for. For example, there is a social impact scholarship for students that are given out if you have if you've worked in non-profit organizations before coming to Duke, and you plan to do that post your graduation as well. So maybe you could apply for that particular scholarship, where you need to write an essay on why you think you are a good fit for that scholarship, and then the admission committee is going to determine whether or not you qualify for that scholarship. There's another scholarship, which is a Women's in Leadership scholarship, where it's awarded to women who have displayed great leadership potential or experiences during their career. And again, the same process goes through, where you can write out an essay to the admission committee or why you fit well into that scholarship. So the list of scholarships are there on the website, and students could look at which scholarship they fit into and probably apply for one of them.
Okay, well, thank you for shedding some light on that, because this is the major dilemma which is there in the mind of students on what kind of scholarships there are and how to actually go about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you walk us through another important aspect, which is the cost of living and other expenses while you were studying at Duke you had, and what paid opportunities on campus are available for students while you're studying there?
So it's very hard to give you like a specific number in terms of cost of living because it definitely varies from student to student. Um, but I'll probably talk about the major costs that a student might incur during time at Fuqua. So, as an MMS student or as an MBA student, I think your major costs include your rent, your utilities, your Wi-Fi, your transport, and maybe other social costs, maybe like going out to restaurants or social events that you need to be a part of. And I think a major component of this is rent. And you'd see that the rent structure is very different from which apartment that you choose to live on. And of course, and maybe for students who don't know, there is no on-campus living during your time at a Fuqua. So it's mostly off-campus housing where you need to choose an apartment for yourself uh, during your 1 year or 2 years at Fuqua. So now coming back to the rent, I think the rent sort of varies from, or if I have to give you a range, it goes all the way from, let's say, a 2 BHK apartment from $1,000 all the way to $2,500, depending on which apartment you choose and how many people you decide to share it with. Let's say, you choose a $1,200 apartment, 2 BHK, want to share it with one other person, then your cost rent becomes at $600. If you want to share it with four other people, then the costs are driven even lower. So that honestly depends from student to student and how comfortable you are with living with four people, two people, or do you want to live alone during your time at Duke. My advice would be to check out the housing guide that Fuqua publishes every year, which gives you a range of costs associated with rent for various different apartments. And all the different apartments are ranked in terms of amenity, safety, the cost of living. And that would give you a good sense of idea of where you want to live and what your rent structure could sort of look like. Now, coming to your second part of your question, which talked about the paid opportunities, and I think a lot of students will be interested in that because how do you sort of pay for your rent or other living expenses? There are quite a few on-campus opportunities. Unfortunately, you cannot be a part of off-campus job opportunities because your visa does not allow you to do so. So the best you can do is be a part of some on-campus work opportunities. Now, let's say, like you mentioned in my introduction, I was an admission ambassador and interviewer, which is again a paid opportunity at Fuqua. So you could look for such paid opportunities where you could probably be an admission ambassador, or you could be a part of heading the marketing initiatives at Fuqua, maybe taking care of the social media channels or other marketing initiatives, and you probably get paid for them. However, these opportunities are on pay you a bit less than, let's say, research assistantship opportunities or teaching assistant opportunities. Now, if someone really wants to has an interest in research assistantships, they can reach out to professors and be a part of their research, where they assist professors in a research paper that they're writing. And these are good opportunities in terms of covering your living expenses off campus. However, the caveat is that you need to dedicate an X number of hours to do so, and it kind of becomes challenging with an already rigorous program at Fuqua. But I've seen a lot of people take up these RA opportunities and teaching assistantship opportunities. So if you think you can manage both the curriculum and RA opportunities, I think it's a great learning as well as compensating for your living expenses as well.
Well, okay, because these two are really important factors which everybody considers before moving to any place or any university. So okay. Okay, so coming to the last question which I have from my end is there any special advice which you'd like to give to students who are preparing for GMAT and are planning to apply for masters in MBA program? So what would it be?
I think my advice would be to understand firstly that GMAT is just one of the components of your entire application, although it is a major component, but there are other parts of the application. And I've seen people who have received mid 700 level scores and still get rejected at Duke or other B schools because of the fact that they did not give justice to other parts of the application. So it's very important to give equal importance to your essays, to your letter of recommendations, and the way you put forward your application. Now, secondly, with the GMAT, I think for students who struggle with the GMAT, I wouldn't tell them to lose hope. To apply to a top business school, what my advice would be to understand why schools are conducting a GMAT exam, right? It is to understand whether a candidate has the analytical skills or the academic, potential to go through the rigor of the program. And let's say you are someone who's not performing really well in the GMAT exam, maybe you can compensate for that through other other avenues where you can show your academic potential. Now that could be through your undergrad GPA, or maybe a degree program, another degree program that you did, let's say a CFA or a chartered, or if you're a chartered accountant or something of that sort. So focus on other parts of the application as well if the GMAT is not working out. And secondly, when you're writing your essays or your LORs, go beyond a website research. Reach out to people who are current students at these schools. Having just a 30-minute conversation with one or two alumni would really will really make a really strong application rather than just reading off what you get from the website and just putting it through, because it also gives an indication to the school that you're really very serious about that school. Schools really like it when you take that extra initiative to learn more about the school, whether or not you're a good fit for that school, and learning about the course curriculum and other initiatives through a particular alumni. So reach out to alumni, reach out to professors, reach out to current students who are part of the program, and learn as much as you can, and try to put that in your applications and in your essays.
Okay, like even I got the basic idea to focus on all the aspects of the application. Okay, so well, with this, we come to the end of the session. So audience, it's your turn to ask your questions in the chat box. So please go ahead. Okay, so Ayush, here we have the first question. How to gain clarity about the industry that the person wants to work in?
So I think two things. One, of course, if you are currently in college and you're maybe thinking about applying for the MMS program, try to explore as many different things that you can during your undergrad. Be a part of different committees, be a part of different initiatives, take up internships just to understand where is it that your interest lies in. And secondly, during your time at Fuqua, and this is true for MMS and MBA students, there are a lot of experiential learning opportunities that you could be a part of. Let's say, for starters, there's the FCCP program, which is the Fuqua Consulting Client Practicum, where students are working in a team to solve a consulting problem for a client, and this client could be a part of any different industry. So that would give you clarity of what that industry is sort of looking at, or what it means to work in that particular industry. So FCCP is one. For an MBA student, there are various other experiential learning opportunities. Now there's a mentorship study where you could choose an industry and a company, and you could work as a mentored student, where you essentially, it's like an internship where after your school hours are done, you would probably work with them on a specific project. So that's another way to gain insight on what that industry is like and what that job role demands.
Okay, that I think pretty well answers the question. Okay, please go ahead with other questions. So the next question we have is how you made MMS in college. I think let's wait on the complete question. Okay, so how you tamed it to MMS program?
Okay, if I'm understanding the question correctly, is the question, does the question mean like how I made my profile good enough for the MMS program, or I mean,
it's basically like the journey to MMS program, like how you started and your journey to the program.
Sure. So I'm a commerce graduate. So I graduated from MMS Mumbai in the field of BCom honors, and post my graduation, I went on to work for Teach for India, for a few months, and post which I went on to work at EY in their M&A practice. And the reason I did these things was because I always have had an interest in consulting, and that's also the field I am in currently. So, that was the primary reason of joining EY, and to understand what it is like to being in a consulting practice or a consulting industry. Coming to the Fuqua MMS program, I think what really worked for me was to try different things during my undergrad program. I've always had an interest for social impact, and which is what I kept doing during my time at Duke. I was a part of, during my time at undergrad, where I was part of various social initiatives, various non-profit organizations, NGOs, and even post-graduation, I joined Teach for India. I kept doing that during my time at Duke as well. So trying different things and really showcasing my interest really helped me get an admit for the MMS program. And that's also something I'd like to give the audiences as an advice, that don't just do things to make a profile look good. Authenticity is really important. If you know your application deadlines are coming and you're just doing social impact right a few months before that, joining a not-profit just because to get that check on your application, that really does not work. Unless you really have an interest in doing that and you've been doing that for all those years, maybe not try to just squeeze it into your application. Maybe like focus on what is it that interests you and what is it that really differentiates you from other applicants.
Okay, I think that answers your question. So the next question which we have is, how many students get job via companies that come on campus, basically the placements on campus jobs?
So for the MBA program, I don't know the exact number, but definitely a huge percentage of the people do get an admit from on campus. I think most international students actually tend to take roles that come on campus. It's mainly the Americans are the ones who are actually networking and trying to get an off-campus opportunity because they have the time and the resources, and they are a little more picky in terms of the industry and the company that they want to go into, as opposed to the international students where they have to sort of look at which are the companies that are sponsoring the work visas, and a lot of these companies do come on campus and they tend to get opportunities on campus as well. For the MMS students, it's a little different because they don't really have a lot of companies coming on campus, particularly for the MMS program. So they tend to generally use off-campus methods to get a job. And I'd say, a huge chunk of the people do get off-campus opportunities for the MMS program.
Okay, I think that very well answers your question. Okay, so jumping to the next question. So it is basically, can you suggest some reference material for GMAT? Also, how to cover gap in your resume?
So reference materials for GMAT, I think it's very subjective, and not everything works for everyone. You'd find a lot of the candidates go for e-learning opportunities, and that tends to work well for them. Recorded sessions for a lot of students, having a private tutor or going for coaching institutions tends to work better for them. So I think it's very important for you as students to understand which method really works well for you and choosing your reference materials based on that. Just from a starting point, I think getting the the GMAT original guide is a very good starting point, which gives you a good flavor of the kind of questions to expect on the GMAT exam, and sort of builds a good base level for you to start answering the more competitive GMAT level questions. So start off with the GMAT official guide, and then sort of explore into what are the certain resources that work well for you. Coming to the next question about how to cover the gap in your resume. If it's a work gap, then focus on what is it that you did during that gap year. I think schools are not very hard on you if you have a gap in your resume. They're absolutely okay if you took a break from work or you have an academic gap as well. But have something to talk about in the gap year that you did. Was it, did you sort of start exploring different things to understand where your interest lies? Did you travel? Did you take up different courses? Were you preparing for something? for a competitive exam. So just have something to talk about during the gap year, but don't stress too much about your gap year either, because they're not very hard on your gap years, because they tend to understand that sometimes things happen, life happens, and you tend to have a gap in your resume.
Yeah, and at times I think it's also because you want clarity on what you want to go ahead.
Yeah.
Right. Also something. Okay, so Prakriti wants to know, for LORs, does it help if you have an appreciation letter from one of the customers you have worked with, showcasing leadership skills?
So I think for the LORs, it's important to get an LOR from, for MMS students, it's either an academic LOR, and for the MBA, it's more from your managers or the people that you've worked with. And the reason behind this is that they are a better judge of your capabilities, because they've seen you work for over a year, hopefully or preferably you have an LOR from someone you've worked with over a year, right? Coming to the specific question about the appreciation letter from one of the customers, I think that can be an add-on value to your existing LOR that you need to get from your manager or from your professor, but it cannot be a substitute for the same, right? So great to have that appreciation letter and maybe upload the same with your LOR, but don't think of that appreciation letter as being as a substitute for LOR, because having an appreciation letter from one of the customers is just a one-off thing where they may not be able to give a 360 view of what your capabilities look like.
Yeah, not the primary thing which you can, I think. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so the next question which we have is, what are the other colleges you had applied for MMS or your MIM program? What was your selection criteria?
So I think Fuqua was the only college that I applied for in the US. And then there were a couple of other colleges that I applied in France and in Europe. But the primary reason or my selection criteria sort of depended on where I wanted to work post my graduation. That's one. And how strong the alumni network was. From what I understood through my research was that Fuqua had a stronger or a more wider alumni network which was spread across the world, as opposed to some of the couple of European colleges that I applied to, where the alumni network was more concentrated in Europe. And I didn't really see myself working in Europe post my graduation. And there are very few schools in the US that offer the MIM program. So I went ahead with going for choosing Fuqua as my primary school.
Okay. And what was your selection criteria like? Basically, the job part you covered, right?
Yeah, essentially my selection criteria of the school was the location and the alumni network.
Yeah. Okay. I think that very well answers the question. Okay. Okay, audience, please go ahead with other questions which you have. Drop it in the chat box. Okay, so Dhruva wants to know that is Duke promising for Indian bachelor students?
I'm sorry. So if I'm understanding the question correctly, does Dhruva really want to know if Duke is a good opportunity for students pursuing the bachelor's program?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it honestly depends on what your career goals are and whether or not and where you are in your career. So if you are an undergrad student in your final year, and if you're someone who's really looking to go abroad and starting a career in the US, then maybe yes, Duke might work for you. But honestly, if you are someone who really wants to work in a different country, perhaps, and you want to go to Fuqua and probably shift to a different country, then you sort of need to evaluate whether or not Fuqua has a good alumni network in that particular country or not, what the work visa challenges could be in that particular country, and maybe make your decision based on that. So it primarily boils down to where you are in your career, what your career goals are, and then sort of evaluate whether Duke could be a great fit for you. A lot of people who maybe want to very individual focus or want to go to have a program which is very individual focused, maybe Fuqua may not be a good program for you because a lot of the program is team-based activities or team-based assignments or team-based work. So if you are someone who really likes to work solo and who wants to work research, maybe Fuqua may not be a good fit for you. But for someone who loves working in teams, loves taking up leadership opportunities, Fuqua could be a great platform for that.
I think that was something you mentioned, like how it's divided into teams, and then you go ahead with your tasks. Okay, so if you have any other question, please go ahead. Okay, so can you please explain the role of GMAT score in securing a scholarship? I think that's a very major question.
Like I mentioned, the two different kinds of scholarships, the merit-based and the other specific scholarship based on your experiences and your profile. So the GMAT helps with the merit-based scholarship, where definitely having a higher GMAT score helps you show better academic potential than other candidates, and definitely helps you secure a merit-based scholarship. But again, you could potentially compensate for the GMAT through other academic achievements as well. So it's definitely a huge factor in securing scholarships, but not just the only factor in securing scholarships.
Okay. How to approach the alumni? Like, are they approachable? Like, what do you have to say on that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think one of the best things I like about Duke is how approachable everyone has been. And not just to current students, but also people who are looking for, a potential advice on applying to programs at Fuqua as well. So, you could always check out alumni on LinkedIn, send them an email, explaining what is it that you're looking for and how they could help. Or maybe sending them an email, which might even work better, where you'll see that most of the students will have an extension of duke.edu, and then email will be the first name dot the last name. So you could always send them an email explaining your situation and how the alumni can potentially help them. But a lot of these times, the students and alumni are busy and they may not, respond to you immediately or respond to you at all. So I'd suggest, always, send out emails or messages to a lot of people. Let's say, you send out 10 different emails, and probably five of them would respond. So don't just send out one email and just sit there and expect a response. Send out few of them, and pretty sure like 30 to 40% of those emails you get a response.
Okay, I think which is why it's also known for its strong alumni network.
Yeah.
Okay, so audience, please go ahead. If there is any other question, please drop in the chat box. Okay. We'll wait for one more minute, and after that, we'll come to the closing. Okay, so here we are done with the questions. Thank you very much, Ayush, for this enriching session. All of us, including myself, learned a lot today from this session. Also, audience, if you want Scholarly to conduct more such events and sessions, feel free to drop in which university sessions and alumni would you want us to have a webinar with. And thank you, Scholarly, for organizing this session. And finally, thank you, audience, for joining us today. You can also drop in your queries at info@scholarly.in. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Have a wonderful week ahead. Thank you for joining.
I think we have one other question.
Yeah, I think we can please address that. Often B schools look for students who work at NGOs. What if the person has like no background in that? and no experience?
I think don't worry too much about it. I think it's just, you know, on the outside of it, you probably think having an NGO experience is mandatory, but it's not. It's more about what is the extra thing that you add into your profile, and it does not really have to always be a social impact experience. You could have there could be several other things that you could highlight through experiences. There could be unique. Uh, it could be a different language that you picked up. It could be an international experience that you've had. It could be different teams that you've led during the experience. So if you don't have NGO experience, I wouldn't suggest just to do something right before the application deadline just to have that checkpoint. Don't worry too much about it. Focus on what you've already done and how you could probably differentiate your application from other students.
Okay, like you said, focusing on the authenticity.
Yeah.
Okay, so just the last question for today, which we'll be addressing, is peer group friendly, and do you miss your old friends back there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the peer group is very, very friendly. Everyone is very open to learning about different cultures and the experiences that you bring. You find a lot of the conversations that's happening about how just learning about how things are very different, the way they're done in different countries. Where you probably have someone who grew up in Germany, and you'd learn about how his experience or her experience has been very different from your experience in India, right? So I think that way the group is very friendly, very open to learning about experiences. And the second part of the question, do you miss your old friends? Yes, absolutely. I think I'm in touch with a lot of these people as well, and we do tend to catch up every now and then and just to learn or what have we been doing since we graduated, and just sharing our experiences.
Okay. Well, with this, we'll wrap up the session. And if you still have any other queries, please drop in at info@scoreleap.in. And with this, we'll come to the closing. Please again like and subscribe our YouTube channel, and have a wonderful week ahead. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, everyone.